All right. I'm gonna do a episode today. We're gonna recap just briefly Week 11 games, and then we're gonna talk about Week 12 Thanksgiving games. Which when I started preparing for this video, there were 3 on the docket. Unfortunately, Steelers Ravens has now been moved, so we only got 2 games to talk about. I will talk about some bets I like in case you want to get a jump on the spreads for this Sunday. Otherwise, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload a video. I'm going to work on it on Thursday, and then maybe upload something on Friday going into the weekend. Just with Thanksgiving and everything, might as well take a little more time looking at some spreads and come up with some things. But we're going to do a recap Week 11, talk about the Thanksgiving games, and then just brief mention a couple hits, but I'll have to get into more of my rationale in the next video. Another rough week. I don't know. I felt like I had a decent read on like how things ended up going, but just with the way betting works is you don't make all your bets the same amount, so you can be in good shape. And then parlays, right? Like if one game doesn't go your way, it can ruin a whole parlay. So that kind of happened to me this week, where I felt like I was decent on picking the games, but the ones that went wrong just were the ones I couldn't afford to go wrong, and they went wrong like in a big way. So getting into it, it's just some games I ended up being kind of right on. Saints, I think they were like -5. And then Taysom Hill became the starter, and they moved to like -3.5 versus the Falcons. Ended up being fine. Don't have a ton to say about that game other than like Taysom Hill to be determined. I mean, I had 2 games on. I think I had, was it Colts Packers on? No, I had that on during the Vikings game. Can't remember what other game I was watching, but I every time Saints had the ball, I was watching Taysom Hill to see kind of what he looked like. I can't say I was like impressed. They didn't really ask him to do much. A lot of screens, a lot of short passes on like the one deep ball that I saw, the one that Emmanuel Sanders ended up catching and then like immediately fumbling. It was like underthrown. It was like weirdly underthrown, and Sanders had to like come back for it. Kind of odd, especially because it was thrown very high. I don't know, maybe Taysom Hill just like kind of misread it, but didn't totally understand that. You know, I was expecting Taysom Hill to have more of a deep ball, you know, than 41-year-old Drew Brees. But we didn't see that really. Didn't take a lot of deep shots. It could just be because, you know, that was his first start and they're trying to be careful with him. But I thought that was kind of interesting. We'll have to see. I guess I just got to see more before I really make a judgment. I can definitely say he didn't look awful. I think a lot of people wanted him to look awful, and some people kind of saw what they wanted to see, and other people are kind of making his performance out to be into something that it wasn't. You know, he didn't, fantasy-wise, sure, he had a great day, but as far as on-the-field football play, wasn't that great, wasn't that bad. Another game I was right on was Browns. I should have wrote down these matchups. I don't know why I didn't. Browns, Eagles. Not much to say about this one. Just that the Eagles, I was expecting the Eagles to really have a down the final stretch with getting Miles Sanders back and getting some of their receivers healthy, like Jalen Reagor. I was really expecting to see an Eagles resurgence, and that just has not happened. So that's disappointing, especially if you're an Eagles fan. I don't really like the Eagles, so I guess I'm not that heartbroken that it hasn't hasn't happened. Washington played the Bengals. This is a game I was avoiding in the video, but I mentioned I was kind of like might convince myself, dip my toes in the water, and I did, and that ended up going my way. Washington just being pretty dominant on defense, shutting down the Bengals. Unfortunately, Joe Burrow ended up getting hurt in that game, which is really disappointing for football fans everywhere, especially Bengals fans. Sounds like it's going to be pretty serious and might linger into next year as well. So hopefully he can come back from that strong. Joe Burrow is a really fun player to watch. Another game, Steelers, Jags. Steelers ended up blowing them out, which is, I was expecting Jake Luton to have trouble, and Steelers were minus 10-point favorites, and that's definitely what happened. Like the Steelers came out and rocked them. Exciting stuff on offense. I mean, it's still a lot of short stuff. I saw a crazy amount of targets for Juju and Deontay Johnson, but they're winning games. They're winning games convincingly. So, moving on to some of the ones I got wrong. Patriots at Texans. God, this one hurt. I mean, this is why you never try to put when Deshaun Watson's your quarterback, you can never feel that confident betting against him, because he's talented enough that when he's on, and he can win just about any game. And that's kind of what happened here. Patriots were minus 2-point favorites. They had been playing kind of better, better on defense especially than like the Texans, and I thought they'd be able to run on that Texans offense. Didn't really work out. Patriots ended up losing outright, clearly not covering that -2. Titans at Ravens. I had this as an avoid. The Ravens were minus 6.5-point favorites, and I'm like, I haven't seen that Ravens. The Ravens that deserve to be a minus 6.5-point team. I hadn't seen that Ravens in a while, and the Titans have kind of been all over the place. They end up in a close overtime game against the Texans, and then who are a bad team, and then compete with the Steelers the next week, and then the next week, they're losing to the Bengals, I think, and then the next week, who knows what's happening. So they've kind of been all over the place, but they're still a team with the pieces in place and a good coach and a team you got to be afraid of. And then they end up winning this game outright, which makes me really curious for the Steelers-Ravens matchup coming up. I mean, interesting how this game just got pushed back, Steelers-Ravens, and now that probably means there's some Ravens players who wouldn't have been able to play that are now going to be able to play. So it really kind of benefits them by moving this game, but whatever. Steelers will find a way. They don't care. Miami at Broncos. This is one that really hurt me. Man, I was expecting Miami with a tough defense, just kind of good in all three phases, being able to run the ball against the Broncos defense that hadn't done much. I thought Tua didn't really matter. I thought he'd be able to do enough. And I mean, I didn't watch this game, but I saw that when Tua got pulled, he had 84 yards. It was 11 for 20 or something like that. Just not an inspiring performance. Ends up getting benched for Fitzpatrick. They say he's still a starter. They're going to roll him out next week. But, what are we going to get from Tua? I mean, I was expecting some caretaker quarterback from him and being able to kind of run the offense. It seems like he was not able to do that this last week. So if teams start, challenging him to throw the ball and really kind of treating him like a rookie quarterback that he is, I guess we'll see. I mean, it's kind of getting Marcus Mariota vibes, to be honest. It's early in his career, though, so he's got time to turn things around, but he's got to break out a golden arm at some point here and do something to give people hope. The Miami was minus 3-point favorites going into Mile High. They end up losing 13-20. Jets at Chargers. This was frustrating. The Chargers were minus 8.5-point favorites, beat up on the Jets as expected, but then they get outscored 9-3 in the fourth quarter. It's like the fourth quarter hit, and they were in full run the clock out mode to the point where they're just we don't got to worry about scoring points. And when you're focused on winning the game, I guess that makes sense. I mean, they end up winning 34-28, but if they would have scored some points and just ran the offense, they wouldn't have had to worry about it either. But instead, they commit the entire fourth quarter to trying to run out the clock, end up allowing quite a few points, or they must have allowed a touchdown, because then they were up by 8, so it was 26-34, which is a bummer because it was an 8.5-point spread. So I was kind of over it at this point already. And then they intentionally do a safety to kill more clock and punt the ball back to the Jets, knowing that the Jets are not going to have enough time to score enough points. And it was just kind of frustrating. I think it was just kind of evident of kind of the questionable coaching decisions that have been made with the Chargers. It's just it's like they were trying to cough the game up, they still had the game in hand, but it's what are you doing? Just score some points. So that was annoying, especially for anyone who had the spread, because the Chargers end up not covering it. Makes it hard to kind of take them in the future if they are favorites. They're underdogs going into this week. That'll be an interesting one. I haven't made up my mind on that one. Packers at Colts. Now, this was an exciting game. Colts were minus 2.5 point favorites, and that's the side I liked. We ended up going into overtime, and that's when you got to love the minus 2.5 point spread, because now it's like you either lose it or the Colts are going to win it. You don't got to worry about them winning and not having enough points to cover, because a field goal is still going to cover those points. And, unless there's a crazy situation where the Packers would have allowed a safety, you're gonna either get paid or you're gonna lose it. And I like that a lot better. I mean, it is annoying when you take a favorite and then there's like a 1 point victory and they win but they don't cover. Like, at that point, I just want them to lose because they didn't come through for me. So this was an exciting game. Ends up going to overtime. Really annoying how the referees were really tried their hardest to give the Packers a chance there at the end. I mean, the fourth quarter, there was a drive. The Colts should have easily been able to run out the clock, and instead, the referees were making it their mission to give the Packers a chance and make that game go into overtime. It was really frustrating and annoying. But Colts ended up pulling it out anyway in overtime. Could not be denied, and that makes me happy because I'm a Vikings fan and I'm cheering against the Pack every week. All right, jumped into the Thanksgiving games for Week 12. So this is a bummer. We had 2 garbage games and then a great, classic AFC North division matchup, and we just lost that AFC North division matchup. That got pushed to Sunday. So instead, we're going to be settling with the classic Lions-Cowboys docket on Thursday. No PM game unless they switch something, but I have a hard time believing they're going to say, hey, you're playing tomorrow to any of these teams. So you got Texans at Lions is the first game. And right now, I'm leaning Texans -3. I would say this is like a tier 2 bet. I mean, I want to be in on both these games because I'm going to be watching them. It's Thanksgiving Day. But you got Texans at Lions. Both these teams are questionable. I'm leaning Texans -3 because, they have the momentum coming into this game. The Lions got blown out last week against the Panthers, 20-0. And they're pretty busted up. I mean, Galladay he had a limited practice on Monday and then didn't practice on Tuesday. I'm not expecting Galladay to be able to go. So they're down their wide receiver 1 again. Jeff Okudah on defense, he's probably going to be out again. Their first round pick cornerback has kind of been injured throughout the year. And then DeAndre Swift is probably going to be back. But he's definitely probably the best of their running backs, but I don't know if he's so good that it really elevates the Lions to another level. So the Lions are just kind of busted up, just got blown out. Defense is nothing special. Offense is, you got Matt Stafford, so that gives you a chance, but they don't really have any weapons that he's playing with. Meanwhile, the Texans, their defense is nothing special. The Lions should be able to move the ball a bit. But on offense, I just have more faith in the Deshaun Watson, Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks trio they have going. Randall Cobb hasn't been practicing; he might not play. But I like that side of it. They're a little more dynamic, and Deshaun Watson playing inside a dome at Ford Field. I don't know. I'd rather take that side of it and cheer for the Texans -3. So that's the side I like. But it's tier 2. Matt Stafford can make something happen. You can't take the fight out of him. Washington at Cowboys is the second game. So right now, the Redskins are +3 point underdogs, and that's the side I like. I am not quite sure what the Cowboys did to be favored. I mean, they have played better lately. They were competitive against the Steelers in a game no one expected them to be. And against the Vikings, they upset the Vikings. And the Vikings should have gone out and blown them up. But these are very different teams when you look at the Steelers, the Vikings, and this Washington team. The Washington team, easily, I mean, their defensive line is good. And compared to, I'm going to throw out the Steelers game because I think that has you can get mad if you want, but I just think that is kind of the Steelers written all over it, where the Steelers kind of came out slow. And I'm going to focus more on last week. And when you look at the Vikings versus the Redskins, these are completely different teams. I mean, the Vikings defense is trash. They got nobodies playing, rookies and nobodies, people you've never heard of playing at cornerback. And then on the defensive line, it's a bunch of, late round picks, practice squad guys that are starting for the defensive line on the Vikings. So they're getting like no pressure. I think they had 1 sack this last weekend. Meanwhile, Washington, their defensive front is beastly. I mean, probably the best defensive front in the league. You got Chase Young in there. I think for the Cowboys, that is so much worse of a matchup compared to what, last week Dalton had time. They were able to make some plays with those wide receivers. Not going to happen this week. So I really like the way that Washington D-line matches up against this Cowboys decimated offensive line. They moved Zach Martin over to right tackle, but that's really all they got going. So I think Dalton is going to be pressured. I think he's going to have a lot of trouble. I don't think Zeke's going to be able to move the ball at all compared to how he did last week, one of his better performances of the year. And I think just because they upset the Vikings last week doesn't really mean that much. Because, the Washington team, they've had a couple wins lately too. I mean, maybe not wins, but competitive games. They beat up on the Bengals last week, which not a good team. So it's not that much evidence. One thing to watch, though, is I saw Antonio Gibson didn't practice on Monday, and neither did Terry McLaurin. I'm thinking that was more of a kind of giving him a rest day, but I haven't seen. I'm going to Google Terry McLaurin real quick just to see if he's hurt. Because I didn't look. I looked up Gibson, and he wasn't tagged on any of the fantasy app. Whatever. I'll have to look it up later. But keep an eye on Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson's status. Make sure that they're healthy and good to go. I like Antonio Gibson to really be a monster in this game against the Cowboys. He was last time they played. He got 21 touches and went for 100 yards and a score. So I think that's kind of the X factor. I don't think the Cowboys defense, even if they played a little better lately, I don't think they have what it takes to stop kind of that grindy Alex Smith-led attack where they're just kind of chunk plays, and I just think they're going to be pretty hard to shut out. So I'll take them plus the points. And yeah, that's really all I got to say about that. Some quick games I like if you want to get an early start. But I'm going to make another video where I get into my Tier 1 bets, Tier 2 bets, probably posted on Friday for those Sunday games and Monday night. But if you want to get in on some spreads because they move throughout the week, if you want to get in on a few, these are the ones I am kind of eyeing up that I've placed some bets on because I like and I'm worried about them moving. First one, Raiders at Falcons. So the Raiders have been kind of slept on all year, beat the Chiefs earlier and then just lost an overtime matchup to the Chiefs. Just have played pretty good football and haven't really gotten the respect they need or they deserve. They're going to Atlanta and playing the Falcons, and the Raiders are minus 3-point favorites right now. And yeah, I think they should be favored by more. So I like the Raiders minus 3. So get on that before that line moves. Seattle at Eagles. I saw this at minus 6, and now it's moved to minus 5 in favor of Seattle. The Eagles, I talked about it earlier, the Eagles' renaissance just didn't happen. I was expecting it to once they got a little more healthy, and Carson Wentz is just having a terrible year. And I don't know. I don't have any faith in the Eagles. So I do think that Eagles defense might give Seattle a little bit of trouble, but not enough to make me really concerned. So Seattle minus 5. Giants at Bengals. This line is moving rapidly. I saw it at minus 5.5. It's now at minus 6. It's probably going to keep moving throughout the year or throughout the week, and it makes you wonder how much faith you want to have in the Giants. They're still the Giants. They have played kind of better than their record shows and are pretty stingy, but minus 6, they're not really a team that's going to put points on the board. But Ryan Finley is now in at quarterback, because Joe Burrow went down with a bad knee injury. So, yeah, the Bengals almost went 0-16 without a decent quarterback. So I'm definitely like the Giants in that one. And it's just about your comfort level with them putting up point, winning by more than a touchdown. So right now at minus 6, I still like the Giants, but if it keeps moving, then you got to maybe pump the brakes. Another game, Cardinals at Patriots. Cardinals are minus 2.5-point favorites. I got to like that side. Cardinals are in a tight division race. They need to win games, and they just have a more talented roster, especially on offense. Patriots, they still are not that good. They played some better games lately, but I'll take Kyler Murray to get it done by at least a field goal. Minus 2.5 points, no problem. That one might move as the money comes in. Another one that's moving, Miami at Jets. I think it's -7 right now. A little tough to have faith in this one because Miami is kind of coming off a dud, and the Jets have actually covered the last 2 games against, I think, the Patriots they covered, and then this past week against the Chargers. So they're playing a little bit better, I guess. They got Brashad Perryman back and Denzel Mims back, but Miami, just a much better coached, solidly constructed team. I like that defense to give the Jets a lot more trouble than the Chargers did this last week. So if the Jets struggle to move the ball, turn over the ball a couple times with those good corners that the Miami's bringing to the table, I like Miami -7. But those might change by Friday. So look for another video on Friday. Check out my Twitter if you want kind of more reaction to news that's coming out and how it affects spreads at Favorite Fade on Twitter. Otherwise, good luck and have a happy Thanksgiving.